Lake Pro Tackle fam, what's going on? I hope you're having a wonderful day. I want to pose a question to you before we really get into this video, and I will let you know, I don't really have a direct timeline for this video. I want to have more of like an open discussion about bait finesse fishing, BFS fishing, of course, originating in Japan to really capture the fisheries that were very, very pressured. You know, Lake Biwa, if you've heard about it over in Japan, that's where the world record came from when it comes to largemouth fishing. And in those areas in Japan, not only the lakes, but the rivers and streams, bait finesse, BFS, really came about as a way to catch the very, very pressured fish. You know, a lot of people think it started in the trout regions when, you know, flies would work great. Bass fishermen started catching fish on flies and really transitioned into throwing very, very small lures for these bass. And that's where I think a lot of people really attribute the BFS fishing style to come from. Something like this mono spin. This 100% probably catch a trout. This would also 100% catch a bluegill, a crappie, a bass. Really, I think BFS, in my opinion, is just a way to size down, really allow the fishery to speak for itself. It's a great way to catch not only your target species, but also a lot of other species out there. Because for me, just catching anything can be a great time. Of course, when I am on like locked in on trying to catch a 10-pounder, it's a little bit different. But a lot of the time, I love being surprised with crappie, bluegill, catfish, not so much, carp, not so much. But fishing as a whole, to me, it's just very, very enjoyable. So when it comes to the whole wide array of BFS lures we have at this shop, of course, I have some of my own personal preferences when it comes to power finesse versus is it still conventional. But here I've got a couple different lures representing kind of the more power finesse and also representing the BFS options. The lines are kind of blurred. So let me know down in the comments what your opinions are on it before we get going too far into here. But let's make some comparisons, right? So kicking it off, I want to start off with just a standard smaller crankbait that I'm sure a lot of us have thrown. This is the Strike King 1.0 square bill. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with a Lucky Craft 1.5 or a Strike King 1.5, the standard for square bills in the industry. Moving down to something like a 1.0, have you noticed you needed a little bit, better gear, specifically throwing lighter lures when it comes to the bait casters to throw a 1.0? I definitely have. When it comes to throwing a 1.0, doesn't have the best transfer system, catches wind pretty well, and it's harder to throw. It's very similar to something like a Griffin from Megabass. This is not the BFS Griffin, but a size down from that would be the BFS Griffin. Now, what I see the differences are in these is number one going to be the hook size and number two the weight. Now, the weight on the Strike King 1.0 is going to be extremely similar to the weight on a regular Griffin here. These are going to be 1/4 ounce lures, and they're going to catch a lot of wind. They're crankbaits, they have bills, they're going to tumble, and it's a lot harder to throw these. Now, when it comes down to the true BFS, or what they label BFS, is the baby BFS Griffin. This guy right here is 3/16 of an ounce. So does that 3/16 of an ounce really justify it being considered BFS compared to a regular Griffin, which is a 1/4 ounce? Does that really make a huge difference? Let me know again down in the comments. But these two right here, other than the size, these two compared to the 1.0, the hooks are a lot smaller. You're going to have a really, really good drag system, know how to thumb your spool when it comes to throwing these compared to this a little bit more. And if you aren't familiar with bait finesse systems, BFS, or just throwing a lot of lighter lures, I know a lot of people, when they watch these videos, we come from all walks of life. I like to make fun of the pawpaw guys. You only throw like a 4/0 EWG or a 4/0 worm hook with a power worm, and that's all you throw, Texas rig all the way. I do a lot of different things on the water. A Z2 is one of my favorite baits, but I wouldn't consider it BFS. This thing's a 1/4 ounce, but you don't need any specific gear for it. It definitely helps to have something like an MGL spool or have hyperdrive in Daiwa. You can, of course, throw it on like a Steez or something like that. But, you know, you can throw this on just about anything. A Lose LFS $99 rail can easily throw this because of the transfer system in it. And, you know, when it comes to technology in baits, Megabass is definitely one of the top producers of that, as well as Lucky Craft and a lot of other JDM companies. This one I would consider power BFS. It's a 1/4 ounce. You don't need specialized gear. Does have tiny hooks. That's the one thing that gets me on a lot of these. The size of the hooks that come on the lures, I think, really dictates if BFS anglers really consider it BFS or not. You know, for example, let's take this 110 Junior or even a 110 Junior +1. We've got Great Hunting 95s. The hooks on these are basically size 8 hooks. Very, very small hooks, can easily bend open. A regular standard 110 comes with a size 6 Katsu-H hook. And of course, you can still bend those out, but you know, you don't need specialized gear. This 110 Junior is 3/8 of an ounce. This is by far the heaviest BFS style lure I think we have at the shop, but it has probably the weakest hooks on it. So let me know what you think. When it comes to topwater, we've got Karashis. These are ultra, I mean, for sure BFS. And of course, the Baby Pop X. These two topwaters here are extremely, extremely small, very tiny hooks. You're going to be using, I mean, like 10-pound braid to throw these, 8 to 12-pound fluorocarbon or monofilament. These are very, very finessey techniques that you're going to need more specialized gear. Now, I think one of the issues going back to like hook size and just overall like line weight and rating that you need, something like a Ike's Micro Jig from Missile Jigs and the Kitech Monospin. You know, starting it off, going back to square one, this has a much bigger hook than this, but they're going to be basically the same weight. The Monospin is 3/32. Actually, Ike's Micro Jigs come in a smaller size than 3/16 as well. So when it comes to the hook sizes, you can see an obvious difference in the Kitech versus mini flip or micro flip. And that's one of the things that I'm just so confused by all the time is, you know, I've got some blockheads here. 1/32 of an ounce. Is this BFS if you're throwing this? Maybe. Flashback minis. You know, you can throw this on a spinning rod. And all this you can throw on a spinning rod. Heck, I love throwing crankbaits on spinning rods. There's nothing wrong with that. Drag systems are extremely nice to have, especially on some of your higher end spinning, but there's also so many BFS options like the Bates LFS, or sorry, LTS, LFS. Is it the LFS? LTS, sorry. LTS from Bates, this Hundo model, can throw really, really small lures, as well as a Tatula BF and a PXBF 70, you know, so there's so many options out there. I want to know your opinions on BFS. If we bring more BFS lures in the shop here, just let me know. If you've got company recommendations, shoot them over my way. I would gladly love to take a look at them because BFS is kind of out of my wheelhouse mainly. Again, I'm throwing mainly power finesse options that you don't need specialized gear, but if you do have that specialized gear, it makes it that much easier to throw. So again, let me know down in the comments. Do me a huge favor and do that for me. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Again, we'll see you next time at Lake Pro Tackle. See you guys.